Thank you, Shelley. Shelley is my pride and joy, and I know that, well, I'm sure you know as well as I do, the wonderful work she's done here. She's always had a magical ability to relate to teenagers, and there's so many she has to her credit, children and grandchildren, and maybe some great-grandchildren from the people that she was Makarim, and it's amazing the work that she does. She should give you a kayach to be able to continue doing, and for, of course, and her husband Scott, who's indulged all these years. But they're beautiful, Berkshire, beautiful, beautiful family. And I have more Milwaukee connections here. Mashi, where'd you go?
She took out her baby.
Mashi
is here with her baby.
Oh, with her baby. And Mashi's father lives in Milwaukee. They're Milwaukee connection. And Joanna Bain, who, well, we go back with her husband many, many years, and with you also many years. How many years?
I met you the day I got married. My wedding day.
How long is that?
34.
34 years. 34 years. So you see all these, Brittany, who my daughter is very close to. So, Baruch Hashem. A lot of good people, and I want to thank Michelle Blistein, my wonderful friend here, who drove me here today, and in general always comes through. Always is there for us. Baruch Hashem. Give you Muslim bracha. Okay, so now I understand this is going to be question and answer. So, who wants to start? Yes.
Hi, Chelsea Roseberg. Nice to meet you. It's an honor to have you here first. I'm just going to say that. My question to you is, what was the most difficult thing that you found in your illustrious career in Kiruv?
Can you speak a little bit louder?
What was the most, like the hardest thing that you found in your career in Kiruv that you had to overcome? Whether for you, your family, something that it was a struggle and you pushed through.
With it, you mean an outreach?
Yes.
Outreach with Kiruv.
Oh, with
what were
outreach
your
with-
most difficult
the most
experiences with Kiruv?
What were my most difficult experiences with Kira? I would have to say that the only thing that really threw me at times was the times when I felt that I really couldn't get through to somebody. You know, when you try to put yourself out and you provide experiences and you invite people to your home and you sit down and you talk to them and then no matter what you do, somehow you can't break through. Those were really moments that made me very, very sad. But in terms of dealing with people, I have, thank God, a natural affinity for people. I love people. So I wasn't inclined to be judgmental. I wasn't inclined to look at them and say, so why aren't you Shomer Shabbos yet? Why aren't you eating kosher? Why aren't you doing such and such? It never came up for me. It was, they're people, human beings, and besides that, I found in the people that I reached out to or was going to reach out to, there was so much that I could learn from them. They might not have been quote from, but they had, many of them had such wonderful midos and such wonderful sensitivities and wonderful insights that I was able to get so much. It wasn't a one-way street. It wasn't that I was up there, they were down there, and I was talking down to them, and I had all the answers and they had all the questions. It wasn't like that at all. I felt that people had something to offer. The Mishnah says, "Ezahu chacham halomed mikol adam." And my father, I was just talking to some wonderful people there, and my father was a Hasidic Rebbe, and he always enjoyed people from every walk of life. You know, people had something to offer no matter where they came from. And it doesn't mean that you can only interact with people who are like ourselves or who have the same brand of Judaism, so to speak. I found that wherever I meet people, I find that they have something to offer me. So that part of it was never difficult for me. And I think people respond to that when they know that you aren't judging them and they know that you find that they can contribute to your life as well as you contributing to their life. That there's an immediate kind of connection that you create as a result of that. So I don't know if that answers your question. Yes.
Where do you draw
What
the
is
line?
your name?
My name's Deborah.
Deborah.
Where do you draw the line between being pure, being selfish and selfless?
What is, again, what is
Where do you draw the line between
between
pure, selfish and
and
selfless?
selfless? That's a real wonderful question. Because a lot of people in cure do have a tendency to burn out. That is that, we do and we do and we give and we give, and we all have to recognize the fact that we can't run on empty. And there are times when you have to do for yourself. I love quoting Stephen Covey. He calls it sharpening the saw. And he says there were two people chopping wood in the forest, and one took off, every hour he'd take off 10 minutes, and the other one didn't take off at all, and at the end of the day they had the same amount of wood chopped. And the one who hadn't taken off at all said to the one who had taken off, how could this be? I didn't stop for a minute, I kept chopping, and you stopped every hour. How can we have the same amount of wood? And he said, and the fellow who had taken off time said, don't you understand? Every time I stopped, I sharpened my saw. And that's the thing, when we stop and we take care of ourselves, and we're honest about what we can do and what we can't do, and there isn't a one size fits all in cure. What constitutes being selfish and selfless is not the same for everybody. We all have different situations at home. We all have different responsibilities. We all have different relationships with our husbands. Some are more draining, some are less draining. We all have different coping mechanisms. Some of us are created in a way that we can handle more, and others are not so much. So we have to know ourselves, and we can't allow ourselves to burn out. We have to be honest with ourselves. So selfish, if somebody will say to you, oh, you can't do that? You can't cook for 500 this weekend? You're being selfish? And you're entitled to say, I respect the fact that maybe you can, but for me, in my situation, I really can't. So please call out somebody else to do. Perfectly legitimate. And one should not feel badly about saying that, because if you don't do that, you're going to find yourself in a place where you want to just give the whole thing up. And it's perfectly okay to do that. It may be in other areas that you could do more than that person. So don't be down on yourself. But we all have our areas, the things we can do, the things we can't do, just like other people do. We always look from the outside in. And we look at other people and you say to yourself, how come she can have 12 kids and they always looks beautiful and the house is so clean and she's able to cook for so many and she's and this and I can't manage even a quarter of that. You don't know what that person is or isn't managing. That's what it looks like from the outside looking in. Nobody knows what's doing by anybody else. So don't do this comparison thing is a terrible situation that we visit upon ourselves. And it's really wrong, totally wrong. The Rebbetzin Shalom, after 120 years, will not judge us on that kind of a scale. He will not look at us and our next door neighbor and compare us. That's not how the Rebbetzin Shalom judges us. He knows who we are, and he knows what we're capable of and what we're not capable of. And if we do the best we can, the hishtadlus is the only thing that matters. We do the best we can. I have to answer only to the Rebbetzin Shalom, to myself and to the Rebbetzin Shalom.
How do you find a balance with raising children at the same time as doing kiruv?
I would
Meaning-
find a balance between raising children and doing kiruv.
Meaning your kids, you raise your kids from, and then you're bringing in teens that aren't necessarily from. How do you approach, how your kids want to know about it? They want to know why these other kids are wearing pants, or why they drove over before Shabbos, on Shabbos or whatever. How do you explain that to your kids that never had exposure to any kiruv, anything?
It's also an excellent question, and when my kids were little and they were growing up, people used to come in and we would just say to them, they didn't have the benefit of being raised like you. They weren't raised from home, so they weren't privileged. You're lucky you went to Jewish school and you know what Torah, what Hashem wants of us, and they didn't learn. That's why we're bringing them. We're trying to show them what a Shabbos looks like, and so that they would know some of the things that you know, and hopefully someday maybe they will also keep Shabbos and so. They're not worse than us. They just haven't. Some people don't only have the people they bring in. They have people have grandparents. They have extended family. They have and you say they're wonderful. They're good people. They just never learned this. So that's how we end. And as far as and they see how nice they are. We used to have people come into the house, whether it was teenagers and they would sit down and read storybooks, endless. The kids knew right away. As soon as the stranger walked in the house, they brought their whole pile of books to them, and okay, you sit over here, and here are the books, and these quote strangers gave them what I never had time to give them, and they developed a relationship with them. I would caution you, given the world we live in today, that you be careful about people you bring into the house and leaving them alone with your children. I think you have to be very, very careful about that. Even though they look wonderful and you like them and you love them and everything else, but I would be cautious about that. We've heard too many stories along those lines, stories that weren't pleasant ones, so just be careful about that.
And what also about the balance of not being home, being out on Shabbos homes, being not available to them. Like we're all here with kids
Right.
at home,
Right.
and your kids want to know, why is that more important than being home with us?
That is also a very important point. I think that you have to watch that very carefully. I used to watch my kids' compositions. They would write, and if they still said, "My mother is the best cooker and baker," my mother is the best. When they would start writing compositions that said, "My mother went away again," then I thought to myself, "Oh, now I better rein it in a little bit." Not a good thing if kids are responding that way. So I think it's important to watch carefully what the kids are saying. I mean, there's some kids that are chronic complainers, and no matter what you're going to do, they're going to complain. You have to know your child, and if you see like maybe their grades aren't as good as they used to be, and maybe they need a little bit more attention. Obviously, your children come first. It doesn't have to be said. But when you find that you see some signs of trouble, then you have to pull it in a little. And your children have to come first. It's somebody once asked the Rabbi Yaakov Weinberg, and they said to him, I had this kind of situation. This woman said, there was a woman that I'd invite to my Seder for many years, and then it came before Pesach, and I said to my children, well, I'm going to have Debbie, whatever, it wasn't her name, I don't remember her name, but anyway. So they said, oh, no, we don't want Debbie. We don't want Debbie, she ruins it for us, we're not happy having her, and then on and on and on. And this woman said she felt terrible, because where's Debbie going to go? She didn't think Debbie knew anybody else, and then she thought that her children were being very selfish. So she presented this question to Rabbi Weinberg, and Rabbi Weinberg said, if your children don't want Debbie there, Debbie should not be there, because it's a matter of emunah and betachon. He said, do you think that the entirety of the world depends on you? That you're the only one who's going to take care of Debbie? Habei shluchim lamakom. Rabbanu Shalom has many, many shluchim. And if your children don't want her there because it spoils their yontif, then take it into consideration. Don't do things that the family as a whole, again, it's not the chronic complainer, but it's the family as a whole does not want this person there because it ruins it for them. Then have a talk with the family and say, if it really bothers you that much, then I will tell Debbie she has to find some other place. So our families matter. They matter, and they're the top priority. Somebody, I think.
How did you pick the field that you were going into, and as a woman, did you find any challenge or pushback from the men in the religious life in the
Did I find any pushback to the kind of life I was living? You know, I did not grow up with, my father was a Rav, but he was not a Rav who did cure. My father was a Hasidic Rebbe. My husband, he came from a family, he was born in Milwaukee, and they did Kiruv. He grew up with Kiruv. It wasn't Kiruv the way Kiruv is today, but there was a community with very few from people, and just by who they were a makar of people. When I came to Milwaukee, I knew in advance, what my husband, that this is the life that my husband wanted to have. And I was very happy about it, because again, I love people, and I see the good in people, and I was happy to be able to work with people. And so for me, it was a very good fit. And over the years, my products, how could it be better than this? It doesn't get better than this. So, Baruch Hashem. Now, she gives me a lot more credit than I deserve. She's really very, very special. Yes.
How do you, realistically speaking, you're in a man's world. You put out books, you speak, how do you feel that, to break that barrier of the man's world, so to speak? As a woman, how do you work in a man's world without being, not talked down to, but treated less than, even though you're not?
I don't know. I guess I was blessed with Baruch Hashem, very good sense of self, and for the most part, I don't think that anything really make you. I love Eleanor Roosevelt's comment. She says, nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. I never gave anybody consent to make me feel inferior. So I know my limitations. It's not that I think I'm perfect or that I have all the answers or whatever, but I'm not afraid to say I don't know. And along the way, women's issue was a big, big item. Women's issues for detractors. There was always, in every group, every presentation, there would be a woman who would stand up and who would say, if I was talking about marriage, she would raise her hand and say, I would be talking about the value of marriage, the value of a good relationship. She'd say, who says that has to be a value in Jewish life? Who says that's important? Who says, and so forth and so on, get very kind of almost belligerent, and the audience would get so upset. And I'd say to them, just hold on, her questions are very good questions. Because I knew that at the source of her question was U-chert. I knew without any question that she was one of those left behind. You know, when you talk about marriage, you talk about the value of a good relationship and all that. And I was pouring salt on the wounds as I was speaking, because here she was, and she was left out in the cold. And sure enough, every single time when I spoke to her afterwards, and I would say to her, so don't worry, it will happen to you too. She'd stop. The tears would stop flowing. But, you know, so
she's asking more, I think Rebbetzin was always treated as an equal. I don't think there was it's always the rabbi and the Rebbetzin. If you go into their home for Shabbos, the Rebbetzin is sitting next to the rabbi. She's not sitting in the kitchen, or
You're not?
she's not
I
sitting.
spend most of my time in the kitchen.
No,
Happens to
okay,
be the truth. Maybe I don't sit and eat my meal in the kitchen.
Right.
I eventually surface back again in the dining room, but I do.
She needs like in a whole work
And
in her
the
kiruv
work
with the
world-
rabbi. It was a partnership.
Yeah, it was a partnership. It was always a partnership. I wasn't. If anybody had any problem, I'd like to hear about it. You know, I didn't shun away from that. There are precincts in the Jewish world where they don't want women, you know, running on their territory. And you know, they don't. That's fine. I don't have to. It's not. I don't have to go where I'm not wanted. So I'm perfectly happy to be who I am and where I am. I'm not a woman's. I'm not a feminist. I don't have anything to prove to anybody. I'm happy to do, you know, the work I want to do. I want to make a difference. I want to be able to be, you know, to teach people who want to learn, and those who don't, that's fine. You know, it's their choice. So I don't have, you know, it's not a problem for me. So I think we just have to be secure within ourselves that we're doing the best thing that we know how, in the best way that we know how, and put forth the best effort that we can. And above and beyond that, you know, whoever has a problem can find whatever they're looking for elsewhere. That's all. I'm not the only show in town. You know, the other people who do it, and I'll do what I can, the best way I can. And if it doesn't work for somebody, it's okay. Suit yourself. Yes. Sorry.
Sorry, were you done? I wasn't sure if you were done. My question is, what would you recommend someone would do when you're in a community where there are a lot of strong opinions and a lot of leaders and a lot of people want to implement change when it comes
And
to
a lot of people want to.
implement change when it comes to Torah and mitzvot, but we're not working together. It's more like egos battling at each other back and forth. What would you recommend?
Can you give an
Now,
example?
they're trying to implement change that is connected Torah, that's up against Torah values.
Yeah, but it's more like a lot of people together under one entity, under one program, but at the end of the day, I don't think everyone's intentions.
Under one program, they're all under the same program? You mean a funding program?
A learning program, maybe, Josh.
Do you want to give specific?
Yeah, maybe get a little bit.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
That-
Internal fight.
Can you shout louder? The air conditioning's really nice.
Where
Can't hear much?
Oh.
you have a learning program where it's catered to classes for women, classes for men, co-ed classes, definitely open to building new things. And there are people who are leading the program who have had experience, who are older, who can handle certain things. But then you have people who are students in the program but also want to implement more. But the way that they're going about it is more like, I want to kind of one-up you, or I want to go against you, not really work and build together. I know that a big part of it is we all have wants and needs, and people really want to be in an environment.
So you're saying it's being driven by an agenda. It's being driven by a personal agenda or these people think that whatever program they want to implement will actually meet the needs of their students?
No, I
or
would
just
say it's
because
agenda-based.
it's agenda-based? If it's agenda-based, again, I don't think that you should get into a fight. I think that you should do your thing the best way you know how. And whoever wants to go with these people,
Can you do that?
Again,
Well, let me say, let's say you want to continue building, but not address the fact that people are bumping heads and egos are being brought out as opposed to actually ideas
and people are what?
People
Sure,
are,
and I think that there's probably very specific
Yeah.
things, so maybe afterwards you can speak to the Rebbetzin directly, because I feel like there's more nuances in the story that you want to get out that you might not want to say publicly.
Okay, sure.
I think in general, if you have agendas, then you have to kind of steer clear of, because those are personality turf wars. Those are wars of turf. You know, is it going to be mine? Is it going to be yours? Am I going to get the credit? Are you going to get the credit? And those kind of things. Those are not.
Maybe told this story, Rebbetzin, I don't know if you remember, it was probably like 30 years ago, but they wanted the rabbi to be on a panel with a conservative rabbi and a reform rabbi.
Yeah, but
Do you remember that? And then
that wasn't the turf. They were honest. They
you
were
didn't, you wouldn't
misguided.
go on the panel though.
No. They once had, Shirley is referring to the fact that they once called from a, I don't know if it was a reform temple or what, they wanted to have a bunch of viewpoints represented. So they wanted my husband to give the Orthodox viewpoint, there would be somebody give the conservative viewpoint, and then another one with the reform viewpoint. So my husband said to them, you know, I am not going to debate the Torah viewpoint. It's not up for debate. He gave him a very, very, pretty awful example. He said, do you think that I would put up for debate if, do you think that a bunch of guys should come rape my wife? Do you think I would put that up for debate? You know, it's not negotiable, it's not debatable. This is, if somebody comes along and in a sense rapes the Torah, so to speak, and eviscerates it of meaning, and I'm going to go and debate with people who are doing this. He said, no, he said, if you want separate
Rooms.
events, not rooms, different evenings. If you have one
Separate rooms
evening
then, right.
where I will present the Torah perspective, and somebody, another in the following week, somebody will present the conservative perspective, and then there will be my guest. But I am not going to debate anybody about something that is so sacred to me, just like your wife would be sacred to you, not debatable. So those kind of things on it. But you're talking about turf and about this person didn't have an agenda. He just was going to be a cute program, you know, to bring in the people. But turf is a difficult thing because it has to do with personality. And okay, we could talk about it a little more.
I think we have one more question. You ready to have a question?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh. How would the Rebbetzin recommend, let's say, when I daven, I don't always have time I just really go brachos, shema, shemona esrei. How would you recommend being able to really just zoom in and focus and have a meaningful shemona esrei without having to build up before, being able to like focus and concentrate when you have a short amount of time, you might have kids bothering you, you might have a lot going on in your mind, being able to really focus and benefit the most from shemona esrei?
That's a very good question, because I guess most of you, or maybe all of you, are in that period of your life where you have little children. And my father, as a friend of Bracha, was of Swedish Rebbe. He was of the opinion that he said he used to make him very nervous when he saw a lot of little kids around in the house, and the woman would stand there shuckling. He said, forget the shuckling. He said, your avoda in this stage of life, your avoda, as much as another stage davening is your avoda, he said, your avoda at this stage of life is to take care of your children, not to have them clamoring for your attention while you're shuffling. He said, that's not your avoda. And besides that, for a woman, it's really b'chol drachecha da'ehu. Know Hashem in every aspect of your life really applies like for no one else. because when you're diapering your baby and you look at those delicious little polkas there, big time that polkas are delicious on a baby. Nobody ever says about an adult woman with delicious polkas. But so you look at that darling child, and then you want to just, so you, and you say to Rebbetzin Shalom, oh my goodness, thank you, Rebbetzin Shalom, implicit, explicit. You say, thank you for this beautiful, darling child, this great gift that you've given me. That's what you're thinking. And you may want to make a point of saying it directly as thanks to the Rebbetzin Shalom, thank you for this adorable child. Or another child asks you, makes a bracha, a little pitzala, 3-year-old, tries to get it right, and they come up with such adorable mutations of a bracha. And you say, well, when your heart is quelling, and you say, oh, thank you, Rebbetzin Shalom. We walk around all day long. The cake comes out and didn't collapse. And it comes out of the oven, it's okay. And we say, oh, thank you, Rebbetzin Shalom. It could have been a disaster, and here it is. Whatever it is, a husband walks through the door and he's happy. He looks like he had a good day. You say, oh, thank you, Rebbetzin Shalom. That's davening. All of that is giving thanks to Rebbetzin Shalom. That's what davening is. So if you have a few moments there, I would tell you that you take something that you can focus on. So if you want to do brachas, then do brachas. Focus on brachas. Don't take the whole of it, either brachas or take Shema. If you can manage a Shemona Esrei, then do just Shemona Esrei. Whatever it is, don't beat yourself up about not being able to do it all. Take something doable. And if you're going to say to yourself beforehand, oh, next week I'm going to start davening, and I'm going to do all of it, and I'm going to concentrate, and you're setting yourself up for failure. And then when you feel like a failure, you start to behave like a failure. So we have to set ourselves up for success. Success breeds success. Little things, doable things, and then you feel so good, like I connected. What you want really in all of it is a relationship with the Rebbetzin Shalom, a connection with the Rebbetzin Shalom. It's not how much you say, it's connecting with Hashem. And however much or however little it takes to connect to Hashem, that's what's important.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you again to the HR department, Women's Affinity Group. If anybody has any questions about Women's Affinity, please see myself, Renee,